So first on the list of pros, Brisbane is a multicultural city and there's variety of food to explore. There's French, there's Italian, there's Asian, and even Asian. You can break it down to Chinese, Malaysian, Indian, Filipino food, Vietnamese. Oh, speaking of Filipino food, there's like heaps of Filipino restaurants around the area. They even have access to alcohol, so if you're missing Red Horse, you know where to go. On the list of cons, just with the trading hours, just know that, for example, if you're after a cafe, they're likely to close around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the supermarket closes at 6 o'clock on a Sunday. The trading hours are slightly longer for supermarkets on weekdays, and I think until 9 o'clock in the afternoon. For other shops, Thursday is where they'd have like longer trading hours. But I guess on the pro side of things, the hours, if you are an employee, it's still friendlier. So there's still some sense of work-life balance, which I really like. Coming from New Zealand, where I'm used to things being laid back, and I kind of feel like that's similar here in Brisbane. I feel like people that I've met before, that I work with, they're definitely genuine, and I feel like they want to get to know you as well as a person. And speaking of which, if we are just meeting, kia ora, kamusta, welcome to Australia. I'm your host, Beanie Veronica. And my examples for my list of pros and cons are just specific to my situation. I'm not sure if it'll be applicable to your situation, so please don't see it as a generalization. For my list of cons, there is traffic involved. For your reference, I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I moved to New Zealand when I was 22 years old, and I lived there for 10 years before moving to Australia. And I've been living in Australia with my husband and daughter for the last 2 years. The traffic in Brisbane can be really challenging, especially I've moved from Rotorua to Brisbane, so it's, I guess, a more laid-back town, even laid-back compared to Brisbane. And unfortunately, during my first few weeks in Brisbane, I detoured a lot because I missed my turns, and I thought I could just turn around and carry on driving, but lo and behold, one way, and you have to drive further in order to make your turn. At least that was what I experienced. So I guess if anything, learn from my mistake and turn on, or at least listen to your navigator. One of the cons as well is the cost of cars. So if you're buying a car, just know that it's more expensive compared to New Zealand, especially for smaller cars. The cost of parking is also expensive, at least compared to Rotorua. If you are living in Auckland area, Wellington, Hamilton, then perhaps you are used to the parking fees. But another way to get around that is if you pre-booked, or if you, opt for the early bird parking option. Alternatively, on the pro side, I do have a reliable public transport here. So I just have the card that I use for public transport. It can be a little bit challenging because of a lot of renovation and works being completed in preparation for the Olympics. But I do know that they're slashing the price of public transportation, at least in Brisbane. And I think it'll just be 50 cents flat rate. So that's definitely a pro. However, not sure how familiar you are with the Brisbane area, but just know that if you are in the northern part, there's really they don't really have a reliable train line to go from, say, Peninsula area to Chermside. You'll likely depend on the bus system. Support the channel, it keeps the lights on. Click that super thanks icon, or simply buy me a coffee. And on that note, might as well share that in Brisbane, they have 5 local government units, so LGAs, 5 local government areas. So that's the Brisbane City, Logan City, Redland City, Ipswich City, and Moreton Bay region. So just know that most of my points here are focusing within the Brisbane City, that inner ring. But definitely let me know if you want to discuss more around that outer ring area of Brisbane. Because I'll tell you up front that the cost of rental properties is in Brisbane area, it's really expensive. So for example, within that inner ring, average one bed unit could cost 580 per week, two bed unit could cost 780 per week, three bed unit around $1,100 per week. Obviously, this would vary depending on your preferences and your location. I don't have rental estimate for houses, but just know that recently, I think according to the news, Brisbane is now second most expensive state in terms of buying a property in Australia. The average, I think, is $900,000. So for our situation, for example, although we moved from Rotorua to Brisbane City, so we found a rental property in Mount Gravatt. But when we decided to actually purchase our first home, we realized very early on that we couldn't really afford to be in that Brisbane CBD area or Brisbane City Council. So we ended up moving up north, where we found a property closer to our budget and our preferences. On the list of pros as well, there's lots of greeneries in Brisbane. Nature is accessible. There's a botanic garden. There's a variety of birds and wildlife. However, on the con side, just a taste of the tap water in Brisbane. It's not very palatable in comparing it from Rotorua. And when I was working as a clinical facilitator in a private hospital, I did this hospital orientation, and one of the nurses from Melbourne said, I can't really get used to that Brisbane tap water, have to have it chilled. So I know that for a fact other people have commented about it as well, and people I know from New Zealand opted to just have like a filtration system in their sink. Others prefer like bottled water from Costco. They said it's cheaper that way. For us, my husband just prefers it chilled. If it's chilled, then it's tolerable for him. For me, I have adjusted. Ako pa ba? Choosy pa ba ako? But just know that there's really like an aftertaste almost to it. And while we are at the subject of water, I guess in terms of scenery as well, maybe lower your expectations around the Brisbane River, because on the best of times it is just really murky. But let that not disappoint you. Here in Brisbane, I think we're very blessed to have other shores that you could visit. Bribie Island is definitely my favorite, but nearby ones would be your Sandgate, Shorncliffe, Brighton area. To name a few, it is beautiful. So you can visit on your days off. On another note, in terms of list of pros, and again, this one in particular, I feel like it's more specific to our situation. So salary in a public hospital for nurses is a lot better compared to our salary in a public hospital in New Zealand. This is not a reflection of all the salary in Australia, especially depending on which state you're going to move. But for us, we can say in our experience working in a public hospital in Queensland, the salary and the benefits are a lot better compared to New Zealand. If you enjoy watching this video, then please make sure to hit like and subscribe and turn on your notification bell so you'll know when I upload new videos just like this one. Salamat po! And I've created separate videos about that. Feel free to watch it at your own time. But having said that, because that is the case, then you can just imagine that there is a lot of competition to get a job in Queensland. You'll be competing against, other migrants and then state applicants as well. So just keep that in mind. And then another pros on my list would be the weather. Especially if you are coming from a country which has colder than cold winter, then you would welcome the warmer weather of Queensland. They don't have a daylight saving time as well. Well, that could be a pro or con. Do you like daylight saving time? Let me know in the comment section below. I, for one, didn't really care much about it. It's not bad. But so I'm just happy that I don't have to remember to switch on, off time, move it, advance, fall back. So there's nothing like that. However, if you are, I guess, if you do have a meeting, Teams meeting with someone from another state like New South Wales, and then they follow the daylight saving time, then you just have to be mindful around that. But I definitely do not miss my night shifts in New Zealand, especially in the winter, where, you know, at the end of your shift, you have to carry this, you know, empty container, fill it up with tap water, and defrost your car to, you know, to go home. And the sunrise here in Queensland, it comes up early, like 6 o'clock, even at winter time, even at winter time. You know how fascinating this is? Because like, I remember working, you know, for a morning shift, especially around winter time. You don't really see the sunrise until like around 7 o'clock. Not sure if I'm exaggerating or if my memory is a blur, but so definitely there's more sun here in Australia. But it could also potentially be a con depending on your situation, because the summer can be really humid, at least initially anyway, as you are acclimatizing. It's not too bad. And then in the rainy weather, just be mindful of flood zone area. I'll share a link for you to check out, especially if you're buying your property. Just be aware that some areas or some suburbs are flood prone. It could have an effect when you are, I guess, purchasing your insurance for the house, and obviously for future planning as well for your safety. It's always, you know, important to plan ahead. And then I think on the last thing on the cons would be scammers. They're just digitally everywhere and more accessible. I guess more so here in Australia, because they have this practice of sending your receipt, you know, via text. They'll ask your mobile number in order to register for house viewings or rental viewings. They'll get your mobile number. Everyone has access to your mobile number. At least I feel like that's the situation. So I just get more scam text messages, more scam voicemail messages. I'm just over it right now. I do know that it does happen more often as well in New Zealand compared to before, but in Australia, you're just inundated by it. It's actually quite exhausting. And this, by the way, deserves a separate video, but we had some trouble as well with booking our accommodation. Got scammed. Everything is sorted now. Everything is well and good, but we did get scammed. But yeah, I'll tell you more about that next time. What else can I tell you? I think, you know, overall, moving to a different country, it's not an easy task, you know, especially if you're moving with a significant other, with your pets, with your kids, regardless of how old they are. It's really a challenge. So I guess be kind to yourself. Oh, and one of the advice I saw, someone posted this in a Facebook group, and they said, don't think of Australia as a warmer version of UK. And I think I'll add on to that in saying that don't think of Australia as New Zealand with better pay, because I feel like you're setting yourself up with disappointment early on. Just take it as you go. Australia is Australia. There's some nuances to it. There's definitely pros and cons. For us, 2 years in, it's definitely better for a family that we've moved here. The cost of living has increased. Inflation has affected it as well. But overall, by the grace of God, we are doing reasonably well. I got, you know, usually I get questions as well around wildlife, snakes, spiders, salary, and racism, but I've discussed more of that in depth in my podcast. So if you'd like to listen, you can click the link above. Alternatively, watch this video next because YouTube thinks you'll like it. If you enjoy watching this video, then please share it. Share it to your friends. I wish you all the best with your journey, and I hope you will be blessed. I'll see you soon. Bye!